So, Des, thank you for being on the show with me today. Let everybody know who you are and what you're about.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. My name is Des. I go by Mother Pepper on online and on social media. And really, I'm sharing my own preparedness journey, specifically in the realm of urban and suburban preparedness. And so I like to do my part and challenge the narrative that you need tons of acreage and a bunker in the side of a mountain to feel more prepared. So I'm sharing my journey and I'm encouraging other people to join alongside me. And it's been an incredible ride so far.
Very cool. So, why do you think it's important for families to practice, some level of preparedness?
Well, unless you've been living under a rock for the last couple of years, you've seen how volatile some things can be that you would normally not even think of them in that way. Things from like a very weakened logistics system when it comes to goods, just getting things in the grocery stores, and to that level also of seeing bare shelves. That's scary for a lot of people, especially parents, right? You're
Yeah.
responsible for the health and wellness of your family. You are the provider, so when you go through the grocery store and there's bare shelves, it's shocking and also very anxiety provoking. But not just that, I think readiness and preparedness should be something more and more families of all backgrounds and all sizes should have a conversation about. I think we are really dependent as a society on convenience services and items. I mean, there's
Hmm.
DoorDash, there's Uber, there's Instacart, and that is great as far as innovation, but what's going to happen when those things are no longer available? And would you know how to be self-sustaining, even a little bit? So I think it's important for more and more people just to understand core skills and things that would be a necessity for their family. So if things were to shift, whether it's a natural disaster, which it can happen, we see it time and time again every year, or if it's something where as common as a job loss in the family, just being more prepared is really going to pay off in the long run. And it's not difficult to do. You don't have to make major life changes. Even small habitual changes day to day, week to week will get you closer to that goal. So that's why I'm here. It's definitely a journey that I've taken on, and I feel that it's encouraging to just share my wins and my losses with the people as I go through this own development myself.
Yeah, I completely understand that, and I appreciate that. One of the things that I have learned from following your page on Instagram is there's a term that is new to me, and I think you understand this, and that is micro homesteading. What is that? It's cool. I like it. What does that mean?
Oh man. Well, if you've been on Instagram or Pinterest for any length of time, you've probably come across homesteading and beautiful acreage and orchards and root cellars. And oh my gosh, it's so beautiful, to the idea of growing your own food, being closer to your food supply, knowing how much love and effort goes into being able to sustain your own family off of things that you've grown. That's the dream. That's not the reality for a lot of people, myself included. So I live in Northern California. I live in the burbs, right? And so the idea of homesteading in the burbs, it doesn't really, they don't have a common ground. So micro homesteading is something that I've seen, I've heard of, and I've adopted it myself. It being able to use just the resources that you have. And for me, that was a side yard that wasn't really getting any use, right? I'm lucky to be in, so yard space in general in Northern California is already like coveted. So
Sure.
let's set that stage there. But I was very fortunate to have, to live in a home that had some yard. It's not huge, it's no acre, but I have a good amount of yard space that was just not being utilized for really anything. And so that just was a personal challenge to convert that into the side yard that is now my garden and my micro homestead. So being able to understand, hey, what is your grow zone? What are some things that are in somewhat challenging, but also easy enough for you to do as far as growing your own food, right? I think a lot of people have this analysis paralysis when they think of like growing my own food, a garden. What?
Right.
I can't do that. I kill everything. And I'll tell you, every gardener kills everything every year. So that is just part of the journey. It's a very humbling process. But the micro homestead is really kind of a newer cool thing that I'm grateful to be a part of as far as a movement. And it's really just encouraging people wherever they have this space, whether it's a patio, a windowsill, a side yard, part of your backyard, to utilize that space to either grow your own food, maybe have, smaller livestock that's available and approved in your area. I know HOA is a big concern, so check with your local area before you make any big decisions. But for me, for example, we just found that it would be a great opportunity, my husband and I, to build a garden on that side. It got ample light. We were like, okay, well, we're scorching anyways, might as well use the light that comes on the side of the yard. So we built out 6 raised beds because our soil is terrible. So raised beds it was. And then, our garden has been super it's, how do I describe this? It's come in waves. It's not just something that happened overnight. So when we got it moving with the garden, we said, you know what? Crazy idea. Let's get chickens. And so now we have chickens also on that side. And really it's every year we're adding, I feel like every season we're thinking about new things that we can add, but there is an incredible sense of just being one with a lot of the food that you grow when you have your garden. It's for me, it's personally been my sanctuary when the world has been loud and my personal emotions have just been full. It was a way to just reconnect with kind of a meditative state for me in gardening and having chickens. And I have to tell you, Andy, one of the biggest joys that has come out of that project, and I continue to see, is my daughter's involvement and willingness to help. So being able to show my daughter, where do eggs come from, passion for animals and compassion for animals, but also just understanding how much love and work really goes into growing like a single strawberry, right? It's very easy to pick that up from the store, but do you understand at a young age how to appreciate where your food comes from? And so that was not a benefit that I had thought about really going into it, but I'm super glad that it's definitely, evolved into that. So micro homesteading, anybody can do, container gardens, tower gardens, patio gardens, even herbs on your windowsill. I mean, I'm here for all types of micro homesteading empowerment. I love to see it.
Very cool. It reminds me of the victory gardens from the World War II
Yes.
era, and how people were like, hey, we just need to do this on our own to free up the supply chain for that time of war. And now we're just doing it to make sure that, we're connected with the land and we're growing our own
Yeah.
food. So yeah, this isn't uncommon, I don't think. This is something that we
No,
used to do. We got away from.
it was very much, not only was it encouraged by, your community and the government, it was just a way of life. And through the innovation of convenience and all, it's helped a lot of people, but we've really strayed away from that. And now we've completely lost that skill set in some areas, right? Like a lot of people are very quick to just say, well, I kill all my house plants, I could never garden. And it's like, well, you haven't even tried. You'd be surprised what you could do if you just really take the time to learn and kind of fine tune your skill set a little bit. But yeah, victory gardens, there's definitely a petition online, like bring back victory gardens, because between community gardens that we're seeing happen, which are also a beautiful thing, and more people adopting backyard gardens. I mean, if we all did a little bit of that, we would be in such a much more prepared space when it came to just the shock of seeing, goods, empty shelves in the grocery stores and limited goods. So I hope we see more of it, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing. I've been reading a lot and I'm hearing that people are forecasting that prices for food are really going to spike in the fall. What are some simple steps that we can take, kind of like beyond gardening right now, to
Oh yeah.
kind of get ready for this shift in food prices?
Yes, absolutely. So I think it really starts with understanding the needs of your family. When I say that is, are you aware enough of the, food preferences of your family? Are there any dietary restrictions? Are there any allergies? I think a lot of people will go to Costco en masse, right, and just get 12 pallets of Spam. And I always use this example because, by the way, I love Spam, but Spam lasts a long time on the shelf if you've ever looked at it. And so I feel like there's just this panic that a lot of people feel, and they go out and they buy whatever they think would work without really thinking, does my family even eat Spam? Do I know how to cook Spam in enough recipes? Do I have somebody that can't have Spam because of their dietary restrictions? So I would first start with the knowledge base of what you know about your family and what's going to work for them, and really try to just look at your food supply and think of them in layers, right? You want to do your part to understand, okay, what is my kitchen layer, like things that I know I'm often using within my pantry and my kitchen. And what is a middle layer? A layer of goods that I'm often using to replenish my kitchen layer, right? Because you want to have a working kitchen, a working pantry, but you also want to know, what can I keep on reserve that I know is going to backfill as I start to use more and more. And of course, there's also, what foods can I really preserve for long term, whether it's through, vacuum sealing, or if it's through Mylar bags and 5-gallon buckets. And that's where a lot of people will go straight to sometimes, if they've just started this preparedness journey, and as it stands for food. And that's great, right? That is a level of preparedness we definitely want everybody to work up to. But if you don't have an idea of what should be rotating in your kitchen just on a week to week, day to day basis, then you might be preparing the wrong things, and you might have a surplus of things that you may not even be able to use in the long run. And you may not also have the knowledge base of how to preserve certain foods for long term, because not everything is going to stay the same after years and years of being preserved. So as far as what people can do today, is just understanding the needs of their family is one. And there's a way to build up your food layers and your food supply just with the day-to-day or week-to-week grocery runs that you do. So I would encourage people, if you know your family goes through a ton of rice just as a staple, grab an extra bag of rice. If you know that you are often cooking with certain canned vegetables or canned fruits, grab a few extra cans. And this way, it's every little step counts, and every little piece of what you're stockpiling and building your food layers. That's all going to amount to a large portion over time. But I think a lot of people, they kind of just get in this mindset of, I got to spend my entire life savings and buy food right now. Otherwise,
Right.
and we don't, you never want to encourage anybody to go into debt for
No, right.
preparedness.
Right.
You want to incorporate these small good habits and make small changes so that over time you start to really see the fruits of your labor. And that's how I started. I didn't go out and buy pallets of food, mountains of toilet paper. It was, okay, I know we use this, I know we use this quite often. I'm going to grab an extra bag of rice. I know we don't eat beans in my house. It's just not a preferred food staple.
Hmm.
So I'm not going to buy that. But I
Hmm.
know that I cook often with these items. I know how to cook from scratch with this. And so you just try your best to incorporate a little bit extra as with each grocery trip. But also, it pays to be a savvy shopper.
Hmm.
Do you look at coupons? Do you, take part in grocery store reward programs? Do you look for sales? Do you talk to managers about, food that they will not maybe sell at half price because they're probably going to take it off the shelves soon, but it's still in really great condition? And there's also so many stores that have amazing prices that you would not think would have good food supply, like the dollar store or the
Hmm.
Dollar Tree.
Hmm.
They actually have some incredible preparedness items, whether it's food or gear, for like an amazing price. Even though like it's $1.25 technically now,
Right.
it's
Right.
still it's still an amazing deal. So I would just say, be open to looking for deals and savings everywhere, because that over time will definitely be a larger savings.
Very cool. So I want to kind of switch gears on you here. One of the things that I saw on your Instagram page that I really liked was you were going over some of the emergency supplies that you keep in your car. So what are some things that families can have in their car to kind of cover those everyday emergencies?
Yeah, that is also going to be highly subjective. Are you somebody who commutes quite often? How many kids do you have? Do you live in an area that has four seasons as opposed to California that really has hot and cold? So you want to just kind of think of these things as you're building out a car kit, and your car kit should be something that should be revised every season. So I don't want to
Mhm.
make it sound like you build a car kit and you're one and done, we're good.
Right.
A lot of things in the preparedness space are not designed to be that way. You should be constantly checking, revising, and adjusting, especially also when it comes to your car kit. So my mind as a parent also, and we're in the car quite a bit. And that's very true for a lot of other soccer moms that you would see probably in suburbia. You're just shuttling kids to and
Hmm.
from sometimes. So for me, I really started with looking at a few categories: food and water, right? Do you
Hmm.
have something as simple as like granola and extra water in your car? Because there may be times where you're just stuck, you have a flat tire, right? And you can't get to food and water sources. And so making sure you have food and water. Medical supplies are really going to be super helpful. If you've ever had children have had something as simple as a skinned knee or a busted lip, you're like, I need everything from a band-aid to possibly sutures and everything in between sometimes. So
Yeah.
yeah, being prepared and making sure you have a pretty good medical kit, medical and first aid, and knowing what's in your pack,
Mm,
right? Because there's so many times we'll go and we'll be like, oh, this looks like a good enough first aid kit. And then you open it up and it's like gloves and two band-aids. So
right.
make sure you read what you're investing in. So medical kit, another great thing that to keep in mind is, just being able to have things that are unique to your children. So if you have children that are still in diapers, maybe you need extra diapers, wipes, maybe a toddler potty, which I admit I bought and it's saved us so many times.
Good
So
to know.
just being able to know what makes sense for your family in that stage of life, in that season of life. But also, you also want to think about what are ways that you can still cater to the modern conveniences that you are used to using every day, like a cell phone. It's important if you live on your cell phone, like most people do. Sometimes you lean on your cell phone for things like navigation, communications, having an extra battery and having maybe even a battery pack that is
Hmm.
solar rechargeable is fantastic. Simply because if you're stuck again the side of the road and your battery's dead, you'll have the opportunity to recharge that and maybe even recharge it in the sun if there's not enough battery. So just being able to have kind of backup solutions are a really great start. And a lot of people will start their car kit and then they'll just layer on more things as they think about it. And that's exactly how I started. I started with like food, water, diapers, comfort items in case my daughter, she's a toddler, so in case she gets fussy, her favorite toy. And then I started to really think, okay, if I was to witness an accident, would I be able to help respond
Hmm.
in case of emergency? Because you start to think of preparedness not just for you, but all situations. And so I started adding a fire extinguisher to my car kit
Mm.
as well as a crowbar. Because you want to be able to have the right tools for the right job should unfortunate things happen and you have to rise to the response occasion. But also some of the newer things that I've added are lighting and warmth, having an additional wool blanket in there. So if you get stuck somewhere and you need additional warmth, having those, a change of clothes, also a tarp. There are a million uses for a
Hmm.
tarp. So preppers everywhere know that a tarp is like gold if things hit the fan. So having a tarp, but also having something as simple as a silcock key, because we have a
Yeah.
lot of industrial buildings in suburbia land, schools and other businesses. And so if push come to shove, you needed access to water, would you even know how to be able to look for the right buildings and gain access with a silcock key? So it very much is a journey. I'm not going to say that there's one master list of car kit preps, but it should be an exercise that each parent looks at what they have and they've built so far and how they need to update that and change that, because the things that you pack in your car kit are going to be different in the summer versus the winter, right?
Right.
And so you want to just be ahead of that. I think the major thing that I would say would probably to start with first for anybody who's building a car kit, aside from the food, water, and medical kit, is security items. And what I mean by that is, do you have a seatbelt cutter? Are you
Hmm.
able to remove yourself from that secured situation if your car rolls? Do you have a glass breaker? And a lot of the times, the multi-tool are sold as one, even better. So they'll come with a seatbelt cutter, a glass breaker. Some have a whistle on them as well. So if you don't have the strength to
Hmm.
yell for help and you need it, you can blow the whistle. If you think back to the Titanic scene, that also works. So you just want to think about situations where you might be in need and what would really be a great tool or skill set for you to have in that time. So most people don't just arrive here where they have a built car kit and they're like, we're good. A lot of it is understanding, again, just what makes sense for you and your family and your possible situations, and just making sure you're prepared.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought up the point about the whistle, because a lot of people are like, why is there a whistle? Why is there a whistle buckle on this backpack? That sort of thing. It's like, because you can't always scream, but you can blow
Yeah.
really hard. And that's something that people really don't get. So let me ask you, we've talked about a lot of stuff that we put inside of the car. how important is it for you to actually prep your vehicle and like keep it running and that sort of thing?
Your vehicle is an extension of your preparedness. It's a
Mm.
tool, and you need to ensure your tools are ready to go. I am so glad that you asked this question, because when I first started driving, I'll fully admit I was the person like, what? Where do I put the oil? And so, and I'm not proud of it, but you learn very quickly when you start to have
Hmm.
car trouble that it is so important that you maintain your vehicle. And I'm not just talking about tire rotations. You should know how your car operates. You should know its limitations. You should know, when you have a full tank, what is the expected duration of your drive. You want to just be really in a place where you understand how you can use your vehicle as best as possible and maintaining that. We buy major appliances all the time, and we do our part to take care of them, and your car is no different. If anything, it's probably one of the most important appliances you're ever going to buy,
Yeah.
because it precious cargo is inside of there. It's you and your family. So, and I know sometimes people, especially now with inflation and things being as costly as they are, a lot of people will put off, oil changes or car maintenance or new tires. And I hope I can just at least echo that. Don't put that off. There,
Yeah.
there, there are other things that can probably take a back seat, but your vehicle should be ready to go at any given time. And if it's not, it should be addressed, because we don't know when natural disasters are going to happen. We don't know. And it doesn't even have to be a natural disaster where you suddenly have to evacuate and your car's just got to go. It could be something as random as somebody who broke their leg and they know nobody else that lives in that area, and you have to go run and get them and hopefully provide aid. So it could be anything of that nature. And if your car is not equipped to support you in that moment, it's going to be 10 times harder to get anything done. So please take care of your vehicles, because they are an extension of you and all the things that you have to do in your busy life. I know the maintenance is often overlooked, but just imagine how many times during the day and the week that you actually utilize your vehicle, and what life would be like if it suddenly was like unavailable to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that you talk about it, is that it's an extension. It's not this one thing that just happens to be over there. It's an extension of everything else that you're doing. I think that's really
Yes.
good. So, people like to buy stuff from Amazon. What is something that somebody could go right now and get from Amazon and put in their car that you would think would be great for their car kit?
Well, I love that, because I live off of Amazon sometimes.
Yeah.
It's very convenient. I will say it's very convenient. So I've built a few lists that are particular to car
Okay.
kits, bug out bags. So if anyone wants to take a peek into things that I've curated for my own car, bug out bag, or just home preparedness, I've created a list to keep things organized. And so that's available, something that I'm happy to share. As far as an overlooked item, because this is actually something that came up for me personally, something that's often overlooked and not really thought of when it comes to car preps is a dash cam.
Mm, I
And the
like
reason
that.
I bring that up, and yes, you hear about people saying fire extinguisher, crowbar, and car kits, and yes, those are all important, absolutely. But I think something that is often overlooked, that isn't talked about enough, is a dash cam. And the reason a dash cam is important is not just for the accountability piece of just making sure that you can say like, well, if we had a fender bender, this is what happened. It kind of it takes away the element of a he said, she said, but it's an opportunity just to make sure that you are aware of your surroundings, that you can actually take a look at how what drivers are doing around you. You can refer back to that, so it can definitely teach you some things if you're in a new area and you want to just understand and replay the video from that. But I can't tell you how many times my dash cam has come in handy when there's been either like a fender bender that I've been involved in, where you would have to really prove that you were not the person at fault here, or if you have to be witness to another accident or an incident, you have that record. but also it's a huge deterrent. So there's been a rise in car crime in many states and
Hmm.
many cities. And a good amount of the time, when they see that dash cam, it's a deterrent in many instances. And so it is something that I wish more cars just came equipped with. Some of
Yeah.
them do, the
Yeah.
newer ones
Hmm.
do, and it's incredible. But it's just an opportunity to, one, protect yourself, to understand, what's happening in the exterior of a vehicle at all times, as well as some of them have an interior camera as well that you can take advantage of. But it's a tool that I wish more cars had, simply because there's a lot of things that can happen at any given time, and being able to have that record is super helpful for a lot of different things.
Yeah, that's a good. There's a lot of good points that you made there. Yeah, not only does it, capture stuff like you started talking about this, and I think, gosh, just a few days ago, there was an amazing kind of plane landing crash in a California highway, and it was all captured on the rear facing dash cam in a car, and every frame of it was caught. And I thought, man, how valuable that is to police and to everybody who's
Yeah.
responding. I'm pretty sure that person who put that in their car didn't think, "Hey, I'm going to catch a plane
Yeah,
crash
you don't
on
think
my on my dash cam."
you don't think you're going to capture that. Yeah.
Right.
You really don't. And I've seen that clip, and it's incredible. You're like, how does
Yeah.
this happen? But it's also
Uh-huh.
super valuable for people. There have been incidents where people have submitted the recording of their dash cam as they were fleeing certain fires in California. And that
Mm,
has been used to help a better city planning for a lot of the escape routes for fire prone areas, and fire response teams to understand, okay, for our people that were caught in this, what was their evacuation plan, and how can we make that better in instances where this might happen again? So you don't really think it's going to help you in the immediate term,
yeah.
but it's super helpful down the road.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. So, Des, as we're wrapping up here, is there some story that you want to share with us about your preparedness journey that you think that we could learn from you?
I would say, I'm definitely one of those preppers that you're not just born into this. It doesn't happen overnight. I think, if anything, I would like to leave with this message of encouraging and empowering more individuals to just think about ways they can become more prepared themselves. And it doesn't have to be major changes. I can tell you, the catalyst to my own preparedness journey was even before I had children. Up here in Northern California, we had terrible fires in the summer and extreme flooding in some areas in the winter. And
Gosh.
it was just like one natural disaster after the other. And although we weren't in the immediate path of any fires or major flooding, I realized pretty quickly, if we were, we would have no plan. We would have no
Hmm.
idea how to bug out. I didn't even know what that meant. We had no destination or rally point. Like, where would we go if we had to suddenly flee? I had no idea. I didn't even have a physical phone book of important phone numbers. It should I
Hmm.
suddenly not have my cell phone. So, and not necessarily to invoke fear and anxiety on anybody, but you just want to make sure that you understand, hey, these things are very real, and they can happen, and the last couple years alone have shown us that. So to just change the mindset a little bit and understand, what are the needs of my family, what are my personal needs, what am I already equipped to do in response to an event like that, and what can I work on? And this should always be an evolving exercise. And it's very much an easy way to get the family involved as well. My daughter, I'll just give you a story. My daughter, in her room, we have hanging a whistle, a flashlight, and uh, one of those reflective material, and it's
Right.
just hanging
Hmm.
on the side on the wall. And she knows at 3 that if she needs help, there's a whistle. She has a flashlight, and because if we're suddenly separated in our own house or the power goes out, you don't want them to not know how to respond, even at a young age. You don't want them to think, oh, the
Hmm.
lights are out, monsters are going to come get me or something like that.
Right.
You want them at any age and background to feel empowered to just say, okay, I know what to do. I know what to do. And so that is definitely a great way to get the entire family involved in this preparedness journey. And it's going to look different for every family. So please, if you're listening, don't feel that if somebody else's preparedness journey looks a lot better and you feel like they're way more prepared. Everybody's journey is going to be different because everybody's needs and family is extremely different. So comparison is not the goal here. It's just ensuring that every time you make any changes, you're that much more prepared than you were last time. So that's kind of my elevator pitch.
Yeah, and I agree. And I tell people with home security, everybody's home
Mm.
security plan is different than your neighbors and things like that. So, Des, thank you so much for your time. How can we learn more about you? Where can we find these lists that you've come up with that we can use to help build our own car kit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've organized everything on my Instagram. So you can find me Mother Prepper on Instagram. I have a link of, the Amazon list as well as some discounts that I'm happy to share because if I can save people money in the process, I want to do it. So please feel free to join me on Instagram and send me a message if you have questions. I love engaging with everybody and understanding their journey as well.
Thank you, Des. I appreciate everything that you have done for us. Best of luck in your prepping journey.
Thank you so much.